哦，在道格开始之前，我先跟大家就是说明一下，就是5月开始，又要再麻烦大家帮我写一下问卷，好，那等一下我会把 QR code 拖上来，就是课程之后，好，那再麻烦大家帮我扫一下，就是跟以往一样的问题，就是填一下，就是大家的意见这样子，好，因为我就是台北那边又在催了，谢谢。
I'll have to think about that. Yeah, I mean, I like teaching the class, and I'm open to that idea, but I'll have to kind of check. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, yeah, sure. And I'm not sure if the center will support it or not. But anyhow, we can think about it. We can consider it. Yeah. I miss you too. Yeah. So. Oh, okay, good. Well, yeah, it's fun to look at English together. So, okay, well, good to see you all here again. And recently, actually, we have been meeting every week, but that's because of I think because my motorcycle accident, and I had to take some time off. Yesterday, I started. Oops. I don't know why it's red, but yeah. Over here. Okay. Anyhow, rehabilitation. Does everybody know what that means? For short, yeah. I think in Chinese we say fujian, right? Yeah. So yesterday I started rehabilitation at a hospital. To be honest, I didn't want to do it, but everyone's like, "Oh, you should do it." So I was like, "Okay, Swanla, I'll go do it." But yeah, I think it's helpful. I mean, that way they can make sure there's no problems and everything returns to normal. But in English, we often say rehab as short because rehabilitation is a very long word. But rehabilitation just means to help someone recover or go back to normal. And normally this word is used for health. Sometimes we use it for a slightly different thing, and that is if, for example, if someone is a criminal, 犯罪人, and they go to the jail or they go to prison rather, and sometimes we say the goal of prison is hopefully to rehabilitate people, to help them return to normal society, to help them not be criminals, to not commit any more crimes. So we can also say someone is rehabilitated, or so we could also say if someone is rehabilitated, that means that they have been successfully gone through this process. So it usually means for physical health, like your body injuries, but it could also mean like if someone's a criminal or someone's in jail, prison, and they're being rehabilitated. So anyhow, let's say this together: rehabilitation. Rehabilitation. And then for short, rehab. Rehab. Right. And of course, rehab could be a 形容词. You could say I'm in a rehab center, or you could be a noun. I am going to rehab, or I'm going through rehab or rehabilitation. So, yeah. So anyhow, I started that yesterday, and it was fine. And hopefully, it'll have a good result. But no, this is not like this is just my knee, right? So it's more about regaining flexibility. And actually, that's a good word. You know the word flexibility, right? So if something is flexible, but we could also say flexibility. Okay. Flexible means it can move very easily, right? Sometimes we also say this means like 弹性, right? If you say my schedule is very flexible, or he's a very flexible person. If you say someone's a very flexible person, it could mean that they are physically flexible, or it could mean that their ideas or their schedule or whatever is very 弹性, it's very flexible. But for my knee, of course, the goal is to regain. Regain means I want to get back. I want to regain full flexibility. I want to get flexibility back. So why don't we say this together? Flexible. Flexible. Flexibility. Flexibility. Right, and flexible, of course, is the 形容词. Right, so yeah, the goal is to get full flexibility. I went hiking on Saturday. I went, 爬山, and it was fine. But I haven't started biking yet. So the doctor said, you can go hiking, but maybe wait for biking until we do more rehab, more rehabilitation. So anyhow, I told the doctor, I said, all I want to do is go back to hiking and biking. That's all I want. I don't have to play 足球 again. I haven't played 足球 for a long time. So. Okay, so let's look at this article. It says U.S. defense firms vow more cooperation. This was the top story on the newspaper today. Okay, so what's a defense firm? What does that mean? What is that? What kind of company is this? What do they make? Well, it doesn't have to be, it could be offensive weapons, but generally when we say defense company or defense firm, of course means 公司, firm, it means for making weapons, 武器. Yeah. Now, it actually technically does not have to be specifically a weapon. It could be some related technology. It could be something that's anything that's related to that industry. Sometimes we say defense firms. Another way, sometimes we also say, sometimes you hear arms firm or arms company. Now, you might think, well, what's this here? Arm is like your show, right? But arm is another word also for weapon, right? Arms, we say small arms, firearms. I think we've looked at some of these words before. Firearm is another word for a gun. Like you say, does he own a firearm, or do you have a firearm? Now, this word arm comes from a much longer word. I'll write it for you here. Actually, I'll write it here so you can see it. Yeah, armament is where that word arms comes from. Armament is another word for weapons or anything like weapon related. So we talk about an armament factory, means a factory that makes weapons. Okay. So yeah, weapon, of course, is 武器. Okay, so these words are all related. So if we say a defense firm, it's anything that's in that industry, defense industry, defense firm, arms industry or arms firm. I think defense sounds a little bit better because it sounds like you're defending yourself, whereas arms sounds, anyhow, they're both okay. So why don't we say this together? Defense firms. Defense firms. And then let's look at these other words. Arms company. Arms company. Now remember, we have to have an S here. We can't say arm company, but it has to be arms. Firearm. Firearm could be a specific individual gun. I own a firearm. That doesn't have to be an S, because this could be an individual item. And then this word, armament. Armament. Okay, so that's just like this word armament we don't see as much anymore today, but it's still used. And that's where we have a what? Firearm? No, firearms are usually always smaller, like guns, personal gun weapons, like a rifle or a gun, a pistol. Yeah. So it says here, U.S. defense firms vow more cooperation. You know the word vow, right? Vow means to promise, to pledge. Sometimes we use that word pledge. I pledge that I will do this. I will promise I'll do this. So then it says interoperability goal. Taiwan is the most important area in the world to maintain peace. Former U.S. military commander told a former U.S. military commander told a Taiwan U.S. defense forum. Now, here again, a defense forum, of course, we've said before, is a meeting, a place where we exchange ideas. In the old ancient Greece, Shila, forum was actually a place. It was actually a square or and today sometimes you do see a building that will have a forum. It's an area where people can meet, kind of a public area. But today when we say forum, it usually means like a meeting, a conference, a place where we exchange ideas. So let's say it together, forum. Forum. Okay, now this big word here, interoperability, is not a word we use every day. It's a very specific word usually used for military. And what it means is, if you see the word inter, of course, you know the word international, there's many inter means between. Operability comes from the word operation, right? So if you say interoperability, what it means is that usually it means that two militaries from two different countries can operate together, right? And that's very important, of course, if of course, we hope there's never a war, but if there is a war, it's very important that Taiwan, for example, their military can operate with other friendly militaries like the United States. If the U.S. has their own Xitong and own system and Taiwan has a different system and there's no interoperability, then that's a big problem. But yeah, interoperability is a goal to be able so that Taiwan can work with other militaries. Okay, so why don't we say, I know it's not a common word, but let's say it anyhow. Interoperability. Interoperability. Right, okay. So anyhow, this is the goal of this forum, is to talk about these things. So anyhow, and I know this has been on the news a lot. A lot of people have been talking about this visit to Taiwan. So let's read this. It says, a delegation of U.S. defense contractors and a former senior leader of the U.S. Marine Corps yesterday pledged the beginning of a deeper cooperation with Taiwan. Okay, so delegation would be an official group, a group of visitors. Anyone, I think a school, a library, a government, industry could send a delegation. Read that, let's say it together, delegation. Delegation. Yeah, okay, so contractor, of course, is you work under contract with somebody. I know that Taiwan already has many defense contractors working here. They're under contract from a company to help provide assistance. So defense contractors, usually when we take contract, usually means a private company, work for a defense company. Okay, and a former senior leader of the U.S. Marine Corps. Marine Corps, right? Is Lu Zhan Dui. Now, just as a reminder, this word, we do not pronounce the P. We don't say corpse. We say core, like C-O-R, okay? So this P has no pronunciation. So why don't we say this together? Marine Corps. Marine Corps. Okay, so pledge. And now here's that word we talked about, promise, swear, vow. Here's the word pledge. Okay, let's say that too, pledged. Pledged. Okay, so they pledged deeper cooperation. Okay, so let's read this together. A delegation of U.S. defense contractors and a former senior leader of the U.S. Marine Corps yesterday pledged the beginning of deeper cooperation with Taiwan. Okay, so we could say deeper cooperation, better cooperation, closer cooperation. Those are all ways we can explain that. Okay, so it says here, Taiwan has faced increasing pressure from China in the years since Tsai Ing-wen was elected president. China has poached several of Taiwan's diplomatic allies and sent military planes and ships toward the nation on a near daily basis. It also held large-scale drills modeling a blockade and simulated strikes on important targets in Taiwan twice within the past year. Okay, so there's some good words here. Okay, so obviously I think you know this, Taiwan is faced increasing pressure from China. Here's an interesting word. China has poached several of Taiwan's diplomatic allies. Now, of course, a diplomatic ally is a country that has diplomatic relationship with Taiwan, right? What does this word poach mean? P-O. Yeah, so normally, originally, when we say to poach something, it means to, like he said, hunt illegally, right? I'll give you an example. Some animals that you're not allowed to hunt, right? Like the Formosan black bear, right? Xiong, or the, I don't know, there's some sort of lu, deer, right? And there's some other animals that it's illegal to hunt them. But sometimes up in the mountains, they'll find some guy that's hunted, one of these animals, and we call that poaching. So that means to go and hunt or kill, you kill an animal illegally. This happens a lot in places like Africa too, right? Because in Africa, you have lots of protected animals where you're not, like elephants, you're not supposed to hunt them. They're protected. But you have poachers. Now, if person who does it, we say is a poacher, okay, with an R, P-O-A-C-H-E-R, poacher. So poachers will come in and illegally hunt these animals. But this word here has a different, maybe related, but different. And of course, here it means to steal or take away an ally of Taiwan. Okay, like recently, Taiwan lost Honduras, right? Yeah, Honduras changed they broke diplomatic relations with Taiwan and moved their embassy to China. So we say China poached. It's like almost to steal that ally, that friendly nation from Taiwan. We use this word in another way, very common too, in business, okay? I see this word used a lot. In fact, I see this word used the most in business. And that means, for example, let's say at my company, there's some other company and I really like one of their employees. I want their employee to come work for me. So I go over to them and I say, hey, if you come over to my side, I'll give you a higher salary and we'll give you some benefits. Why don't you come over to my company? And they say, okay, and they come to my company. We call that poaching, okay? Also for sports, like a sports team, especially professional sports. If my team really wants one of their players, or maybe their team wants one of my players, and they say, hey, we want you to come play for us instead. And that player goes over to the other team. We say that team poached one of my players. And this has happened. I have a 足球队, right? I'm a manager, a 教练 of a 足球队. I've had before in the past, one or two of my players, well, maybe two or three, gone to other teams. And it made me really upset because I was like, no, I want those guys to stay here, but they were poached by other teams. The other teams wanted them to go there. So this idea of poaching. Now, of course, when you poach a player or you poach someone from another company, there's nothing illegal about it, right? Usually. I mean, you just get them to come over. But we use that word. Okay, yes. Yeah, it's a totally different meaning. It's a way of cooking an egg. I think you boil it? Boil it, yeah. Yeah, poached eggs. That's a whole different meaning. Okay, so why don't we say together poach. Poach. And then for the person, that's a poacher. Poacher. Okay, so China has poached several Taiwan's diplomatic allies and sent military planes and ships toward the nation, towards Taiwan, on a near daily basis. Now here we have this 形容词, but we've hyphenated it. Near daily, what does this mean? Almost daily, almost on a near daily basis, okay? It's also held large-scale, big drills, modeling a blockade. Now, you know what a blockade is, right? Okay, how do you say it in Chinese? It's when you, like you feng, okay. So if you blockade a country or a place, it means no one can go in and out. You blockade. So why don't we say together, blockade? Blockade. Okay, so these drills, now of course when we say drill, another what? So large-scale exercise is modeling a blockade. So when we say model, it means to imitate, to be like it, to practice. Modeling a blockade and simulated strikes on important targets. Now, simulated or simulation it's like modeling, right? Often we have computer simulations, right? Like let's say, for example, we want to see how strong this building is. And so we say, okay, we're going to enter all the data into the computer. And then we're going to simulate an earthquake, 地震. And we'll say, okay, if it was a 6.5 or 7, we'll look at the building on the computer, on the 电脑, and we'll see if the building will stand up or fall down or what will happen. So that's called a simulation, okay? There's many, many kinds of simulations. I know many people like to play with flight simulators, which basically is if you want to pretend you're a pilot and you can go on your computer, your 电脑, and you can fly the airplane. They have instruments and you can take off and you can fly around, then you can land the airplane. That's called a flight simulator, okay? With the ER, instead of ED, ER, flight simulator, okay? So, and of course, there's T, is it ER or OR? Maybe OR? Okay, maybe OR, yeah. Anyhow, it's flight simulator, okay? And, there's professional flight simulators like the 航空公司 or military. They have a very complex, big flight simulator that you can fly an airplane in. Once I was down in visiting, this is many years ago, but I was with a government group and we went to visit the Taiwan Air Force Academy in Gangshan near Kaohsiung, and they had a flight simulator for IDF, and they were like, do you want to fly it? And I was like, sure. So I got in and there's a pilot there, a Taiwan Kongjun pilot, and he showed me how to take off. And of course, I think I crashed the airplane, but it was fun. Yeah. So yeah, but it was kind of cool. I enjoyed it. So anyhow, large scale drills modeling a blockade and simulated strikes. That means attacks on important targets in Taiwan. Okay. Any questions about this? I've heard we have contractors from many countries, USA and maybe Japan and Korea and other places, maybe, and UK. I haven't actually heard Germany, but maybe UK. But yeah, I've heard, of course, this is all very top secret, right? But I hear rumors, right? I'm sure that Taiwan has military contractors, foreign military contractors, because the technology to build a submarine is very, very complicated, right? You need expertise, you need technology, you need assistance from other countries that know how to do this, and that includes the US, Japan, and other countries that build submarines. Yeah, Marine Corps. Well, Corps is a group, right? So I guess we were two corps, but I don't think that the spelling is any different. Yeah, because it already has an S, so we wouldn't say corps. Courses, Yeah. Yeah, coup, yeah. P. Coups. Yeah. Yeah, with an S, yeah. Okay, so any other questions? Okay, let's read this. Taiwan has faced increasing pressure from China in the years since Tsai Ing-wen was elected president. China has poached several of Taiwan's diplomatic allies and sent military planes and ships toward the nation on a near daily basis. It also held large-scale drills modeling a blockade, and simulated strikes on important targets in Taiwan twice within the past year. Okay, let's say this word again. We didn't say it earlier. Simulate. Simulate. And then with O, I guess O-R. Simulator. Simulator. Now, if you want to turn this into a 名词, like you're going to run, then it is T-I-O-N. A simulation. Okay, so why don't we say it to simulation. Simulation. Right, so you can say we ran a simulation on the computer, or we used a simulation on the computer. So this is it's a good word. Sometimes they shorten it to sim, like a flight sim, but normally we would say the whole word simulation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I think this is just something to do with the layout. There's a space here, and I think it inserted a space, so don't worry about that. Yeah, this doesn't mean anything. Yeah, it's the formatting on the screen. Yeah. The red line doesn't mean anything. Just ignore that. Yeah, I think it's because the computer saw this ing and they thought maybe it was incorrect, like a misspelling, because it's ing, but it's part of her name. And this was a space that got inserted when we copied and pasted it. So yeah, it's fine. Okay, so let's go on here. It says, speaking at a public forum in Taipei, former U.S. Marine Corps Forces Pacific Commander Stephen Rudder said the U.S. wants to be part of the defense capabilities of Taiwan and bolster its supply chain resilience. Okay, so a couple words here. Bolster, we've talked about. What is bolster? What's another word for bolster? Strengthen, okay? To make stronger, okay? To bolster something. You can bolster anything. I mean, make it stronger. You could bolster this building, okay? So why don't we say together, bolster. Bolster. Yeah, the more common word is simply to strengthen, okay? Now it says here, it's supply chain, and we've talked about supply chain. There's supply chains for technology, for semiconductors, but here we're talking about defense. The supply chain resilience. And what does resilience mean? Yeah, basically it means strength, okay? If something is resilient, okay, so we take the CE and we make it a T, R-E-S-I-L-E, or R-E-S-I-L-I-E-N-T, resilient, then it becomes a 形容词. It means strong. It can last. It won't get knocked over. You know, if something comes up like a storm or pressure or something, it will stand strong. It won't fall over. It'll be resilient. So we can have resilient people, right? People who are resilient. No matter what happens, they still keep going, okay? But here we're talking about Taiwan's supply chain resilience. It means the supply chain is strong. Okay, and of course, resilience here is a noun. Okay. They're different. Flexible means it's 弹性, it can move, but we could say flexibility helps resilience, right? It could, if something is resilient, like, you know, you look at some trees in a typhoon and the trees are very flexible so that they're resilient. They don't fall over. If they were not flexible, they might snap over and break off and fall over. So flexibility can boost, help resilience. Okay, so let's get together. Resilience. Resilience. And then as a 形容词, resilient. Resilient. Okay. So yeah, they want to help Taiwan in this resilience, help make it more resilient. Okay. So let's read this together. Speaking at a public forum in Taipei, former said the U.S. wants to be part of the defense capabilities of Taiwan. Let's say it again, capabilities. Okay. And bolster its supply chain resilience. One more time, resilience. Right. Okay. So this guy was the commander of the U.S. 的美国海军陆战队 forces Pacific, Taipingyang. Of course, there's many different commands. So he was the head of the Taipingyang forces. Okay. So, oh, that's a photo caption. He also emphasized how critical the nation's position is for security. For the Asia Pacific, I would offer there's not another more important area in the world to maintain peace, Rudder told the Taiwan U.S. Defense Industry Forum. So, when you hear a free and open Indo-Pacific, this is a small part of ensuring that shared vision remains intact. Now, what does intact mean? Yeah, it means in one piece, right? It doesn't break. You know, if you have an egg and you want to make sure that egg is intact, you want it to break or crack open, but anything can stay intact. You can say, even your emotions. For example, you can say, he wants to keep his pride intact. He doesn't want to 丢脸. If you 丢脸, then your face or your pride is no longer, it's broken, right? It's damaged. But you say, I'm trying to keep my pride intact, or I'm trying to keep my reputation intact, right? What? Integrity or dignity. You know, there's all these, well, good things, positive things, right? People, dignity, reputation, all these things. You want to keep them intact. You don't want them broken. So it could be a thing, something like that, or it could be like a vision. You know, they want to keep this vision strong and in one piece, or it's an object, right? You want to keep an egg or a building intact, right? You don't want it to be damaged or broken. Okay, so why don't we say together, intact? Okay, so he's saying that, of course, he says for Asia Pacific, I would offer. Now, when you say I would offer, you know, usually we offer something, but here it means I would suggest or I would propose. Means this is my idea, my suggestion, my idea. I think it's a better way to say it. I would suggest, I would propose that there's not another more important place or area in the world to keep peace, maintain peace. Okay, so here in free and open Indo-Pacific, Intai, this is a small part of ensuring. Okay, ensure means what? To make sure, right? To ensure is to make sure. To ensure that shared vision, this shared vision, when we say a shared vision, means that the U.S. and Taiwan and other friendly countries share this vision, this idea of a free and open Indo-Pacific remains intact. It's together. It's in one piece. He's saying that Taiwan, is a small part. I believe that's what he's saying. Taiwan is a small part of ensuring or this military cooperation, this defense industry, cooperation with Taiwan. I'm not quite sure if that's what he's talking about. Anyhow, this is part of that. Yeah. Okay, so let's read this. The Asia Pacific offer. There's not another more important area in the world to maintain peace. Rudder told the Taiwan U.S. Defense Industry Forum, so when you hear a free and open Indo-Pacific, let's say that part again, free and open Indo-Pacific, this is a small part of ensuring that shared vision remains intact. Okay. I think it refers to this, right? A free Pacific, Indo-Pacific. Yeah, I mean, of course, democracy means it's free, but I think more, perhaps part of that, it's not just democracy, but it's just free for trade, right? Free for, this is why the U.S. always sails their ships up the Taiwan Haixia. It's because they're saying there should be freedom of navigation, right? People, any country should be able to freely sail through the Taiwan Haixia as well as the Nanhai, South China Sea, right? It's open. It's international waters. It doesn't belong to China, so therefore we can sail there. That's what they're saying. So anyhow, that's what they say: free and open Indo-Pacific. So anyhow, this is what he's saying. He says we want to be part of the self-defense capabilities of Taiwan. He said. Rutter said that the visit was within the U.S. multiple agreements with China and laws related to Taiwan, such as the Taiwan Relations Act, which requires Washington to ensure, there's that word again, ensure that Taiwan can defend itself. Okay, so self-defense, of course, is a word we use a lot, means to, like we say, 国防, right, to protect yourself, self-defense. Now, self-defense could be for a country, or it could also be for you personally, right? So in America, many people believe that it's important to own a gun for self-defense, right? To protect themselves. Of course, the question is, how many guns do you need for self-defense? Of course, guns are not just for self-defense. Many Americans own guns as a hobby, right? It's for fun. They like to go out and shoot. Or hunting. Yeah, hunting is another way. Obviously, hunting's not self-defense. Oh, Taiwan's much safer. I will say, when I go to America, I feel like I'm not scared, right? I'm not like looking around, but I am more aware, right? I think when I'm in America, I have to be more aware of my environment when I go out, especially in certain places. I have to kind of just pay attention. But in Taiwan, it's very like, nobody really cares. I think I told you that recently Taiwan, there's a global survey, right? 调查, and Taiwan was ranked #1 in the world for places where you feel safe to walk by yourself, right? So that means you can walk pretty much anywhere, day, night, man or woman, and it's pretty much okay. You don't have to think about it. So yeah, I think America's not as safe as Taiwan in that regard. So yeah, unless you're driving, then Taiwan's very dangerous. You've seen all the news recently, and it's true. I will say Taiwan's extremely safe unless you're on the road, and then it's quite dangerous. That the chance of you getting hit by a motorcycle or hit by a car or getting in an accident, it's just terrible. It's very funny. Yesterday I was going, it's not funny, but yesterday I was going to rehabilitation. I was driving my motorcycle on Taiwan Dadao, right? And there was quite a bit of traffic, and I was on the motorcycle lane, right? The slow lane, the man che dao, and I'm driving along and I see a motor scooter lying on its side, and I see a woman over there on the side of the road, and immediately I realize it's an accident, right? So I slow down, I'm in the outside, there's 2 lanes. I'm in this lane, and the motorcycle's over there. And I slow down and I'm looking, where's the other vehicle? And then I turn and I look and I almost hit the guy. There was a Uber Eats scooter. I guess he hit her, but then he parked his motorcycle right in the middle of the lane. There was no police, nothing. There was a motor scooter parked right in the middle of the lane with no warning. I almost hit him because it was sitting right in the middle of the lane. I thought, I'm on my way to get rehabilitation. I almost hit another motor scooter because he was parked in the middle of the lane. In America, they always say if you have an accident, the first thing you do is move your vehicle off the road. You always move your vehicle off the road. You don't keep it in the middle of the road. In Taiwan, they always leave the vehicle in the middle of the road because they're waiting for the 警察 to show up, right? So, but there was no warning. There there was no sign or anything like that. And I thought, I kept going, but I thought if someone else hits that motor scooter, another driver, it would not surprise me, because he was sitting. I mean, I couldn't believe it. And the driver wasn't there. The driver was over there on the side of the road, and this motor scooter's in the middle of a busy road. So anyhow, Taiwan's roads need to get better. Okay, so anyhow, let's see here. So he says, we want to be part of the, okay, so let's read this. We want to be a part of the self-defense capabilities. Let's say it again. Self-defense capabilities of Taiwan, he said. Rudder said the visit was in the U.S. multiple agreements with China and laws related to Taiwan, such as the Taiwan Relations Act, which requires Washington to ensure Taiwan can defend itself. Okay. So basically what he's saying is that this visit by these defense firms to Taiwan is within. It means that it's not outside of these laws and agreements between the U.S. and China and Taiwan. He's saying this is legal. There's nothing illegal about this. To come and talk to Taiwan about helping Taiwan or helping, with defense. I don't think so. I think this forum was more industry to industry. I heard there were some people there from the government. I'm sure there were, but I think it was more about industry, business, companies. As you know, Taiwan has a lot of, well, not a lot, but it has a good number of defense industry companies, right? And so I think the idea is that maybe these companies can come and cooperate with Taiwan, and even maybe manufacture weapons in Taiwan. U.S. companies or foreign companies come to Taiwan and manufacture, produce weapons here, because Taiwan has lots of high tech, right? They have lots of capabilities that are quite good. I mean, quite high. And so I think, I think the big problem right now is that Americans' defense industry cannot keep up with all the demands, with Ukraine, Ukraine, and all this stuff. And so now they're saying, hey, we should look at some other options. Maybe we can cooperate with Taiwan and other countries to make weapons outside. Okay, I think we can go on then to a different article, but are there any questions about this one? About this? Capabilities? Yeah. Oh, it means Taiwan's weapons weapons, 武器, right? What's their ability to defend themselves? So basically, they want to help Taiwan defend itself. They want to improve their ability or their capabilities to defend themselves. Yeah, it's a big, very important subject. Okay, so let's go on to a different article. And, whoops, that's the wrong thing. I saw something here that was kind of interesting. So, a while back we talked about this. And it seems like we've been waiting a long time for Prince Charles to officially become king. I mean, he is king. Obviously, he's King Charles, right? But there is an official ceremony that will take place very soon. That will have this happen. And this official ceremony, when a king or queen comes to the throne, right? They officially this ceremony where they become the king or the queen. We call that a coronation. Okay, so why don't we say it together? Coronation. Coronation. Right. Of course, this does not happen very often because it's not very often we have a new king or queen in any country. But yeah, when we do, we're in this big formal ceremony called the coronation. So this year, King Charles' coronation draws foreign royal fans. Of course, many people around the world are fascinated by the royal family, you know, in England, in the UK, and I shouldn't say England, it's the Great Britain, it's the whole United Kingdom. So, including, I know many Americans, even I am really fascinated by that. I mean, maybe I'm a royal fan. So, yeah, so foreign royal fans, okay, so many people want to go and see this or watch it. I'm sure, you know, if it's on TV, I guarantee you I'll watch it. I want to see this because I was really fascinated by Queen Elizabeth's funeral, right? It was such a huge ceremony and process, and I thought, wow, I might not ever see this again, anything quite like this. You know, it's quite interesting. So here I'll read this. It says, harking from Australia, Canada, France, and beyond, many international royal fans are celebrating King Charles III's coronation by heading to London, a city that knows how to capitalize on its most famous residents. Okay, now when we say harking from, what does that mean? Coming from. It's not a word we use every day, but it is a word we use. So if you can say, he harks from Taiwan, harking from Taiwan, it means coming from Taiwan. That's where you live. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very old language, and we don't use it anymore. But yeah, you know that Christmas carol says, "Hark the herald angels sing." I guess that's what it means, but I've never heard that word used. That's a good question. I have to go Google that or something. Yeah, if we use the word hark today, it means coming from. Okay, that's where you're from. Okay, so why don't we say that word together? Harking. Harking. Okay, so harking from all these places. It says Australia, Canada, France, and beyond. Now, of course, when we say beyond, it means in other places, right? And beyond, you know, other countries, okay? Many international royal fans are celebrating King Charles III. Now, of course, here's King Charles III, but usually this is so King Charles III's coronation by heading to London, a city that knows how to capitalize on its most famous residents. Now, who are its most famous residents? The royal family, right? You know, they, of all the people that live in London, or you can think of the king or the queen or the Prince Harry, or all these. Actually, Prince Harry doesn't live there anymore, but his brother, Prince William, lives there. Okay. Now this is funny. It says a city that knows how to capitalize on its most famous residents. What does this mean here? To capitalize, to make money from, or to benefit. Okay. So basically, many people, if you're a tourist, you know, and you go to London, many people are very interested in the royal family. You know, where does the king? Where's some signs of the royal family? Anything that has to do with the royal, they're very can know how to make money or how to benefit. You know, the benefit, of course, is getting more more tourists to come to London, right? Because of the royal family. But you could also make money off it. Okay, I'm sure. I know if you go to London or many places in England, there's many like souvenirs and other things you can buy that have something to do with the royal family. So that's capitalizing off of that. Okay, now of course we know sometimes we can capitalize on many things, right? You could capitalize off of your ability, your talent, right? Let's say you're a very piano player, and you say, you go and get a job playing piano, or you could join an orchestra and make money off of that. Capitalize on. Does everybody understand that? Okay, and that word can be used in many ways. Okay, so let's read this together. Harking from Australia, Canada, France, and beyond, many international royal fans are celebrating King Charles III's coronation. Okay, so let's say this again. Remember, it's King Charles the, T-H-E, the third, T-H-I-R-D. Okay, King Charles III's coronation by heading to London, a city that knows how to capitalize on its most famous residents. Okay, so here let's go on. It says, it's a dream come true. 24-year-old French woman for London. Originally from Metz in northeastern France, the communications worker is to make the trip alone, as her friends do not share her passion for the British royal family. So this woman, she says, dream come true. For her, it's amazing. She's so happy. French woman, of course, French, we say Frenchman or French woman. French woman, Ludovine, that's an interesting name. I'm not familiar with that. Decker, to me, doesn't sound very French, but I guess, yeah. A few days before leaving for London. Now, originally, she's from Metz, and I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but this is a city in northeastern France. The communications worker, she works in some sort of communications industry, is, you know, when we say is to make the trip alone, it's another way of saying will make the trip alone. So, something that's going to happen is to do this, is to make the trip alone as, or we could say because, her friends do not share her passion, her love for the British royal family. So her friends don't really care, but she loves this, okay? Any questions on that? Okay, let's read this then. It's a dream come true. 24-year-old French woman, Ludovine Decker said, a few days before leaving for London. Originally from Metz in northeastern France, the communications worker as her friend not share her passion okay, that's a photo caption. So it says here, too young to visit the UK for William and Kate's 20 Platinum Jubilee last year. The coronation is a now or never moment to attend a royal celebration, she said. Okay, so this woman was too young to visit for, William and Kate's 2011, they got married. That was a big deal, right? Big wedding, royal wedding. Okay, and she was also a student during Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee. Now, this is very interesting. This Jubilee is a celebration for the Queen or the King, whoever the leader, the royal leader is. It's marked every certain number. And they use different metals. There was a silver Jubilee, a golden Jubilee, and a platinum Jubilee. I believe the platinum Jubilee means that she was the queen for, I believe, 60 years. No, 50 years. 50 years. Oh, there's a diamond Jubilee too. Okay, so I think it's every 25 years they mark this, right? So I think I could be wrong here, but there's 25, then 50, then 75. So this must have been, she was 90. Yeah, so this might have been, I don't think it would have been her 75th. I'm sorry, I'm completely, I know there's silver, golden, diamond, and platinum, and I'm not sure. I know gold and silver and gold come first. But anyhow, every so often they have this big celebration to mark the number of years the queen or king has been in power. Okay, so does everybody know what platinum is? Yeah, it's a valuable, very valuable metal. So, and Jubilee is this celebration. It's a special name for this kind of celebration. So why don't we say together, Jubilee? Jubilee. Okay. Actually, there's a word that's very similar to this. Maybe you've heard the word jubilant. Yeah. Jubilant means very happy, but almost in a victorious way, right? Like I'm jubilant means like I was successful, I triumphed, I won, and we say they're very jubilant. It's that kind of idea often. You could say it's very happy, but it's usually happy because of something you did or achieved. It's like a victorious type of happy. It's not like you wouldn't just say I'm jubilant because the sun's out. You wouldn't say that, right? You would say I'm jubilant. He was jubilant after passing his examination. He was jubilant after he was accepted into that university or getting that new job or finishing that project. Something that you have achieved, triumphed, then you are jubilant. So it's kind of a happiness over an achievement. Okay, so why don't we say together, jubilant? Jubilant. Yeah. So you can see the word, it's kind of similar over that. Maybe that's, I'm sure there's a relationship between those two words. Let's say the other word, platinum. Platinum. Okay, so she was a student during Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee last year. Of course, that was her last Jubilee before she passed away. So the coronation is a now or never moment. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard this expression, now or never. What does that mean? Yeah, it means this is your only chance. If you don't do it now, it's never. So let's say, we use this expression sometimes. Let's say you're inviting your friend to join you at a special event. Let's say there's a big party, and your friend's like, I don't know if I should go, or I can't decide. And you say, look, it's now or never. Do you want to go, or do you not want to go? If you don't say yes now, you can't go. Or maybe there's an opportunity to do something. Let's say some famous singer comes to Taiwan, and you say, well, I want to go see her. It's now or never. Either I'm going to see her now, or I'm never going to see her ever perform. Yeah. So this is an expression we say now or never. Okay. So this is a now or never moment to attend a royal celebration. If she doesn't do this, probably she'll never get another chance. She thinks. Okay. Right. I think many people are. I'm fascinated by the royal family. I mean, in fact, when I saw this, I thought, oh, I need to watch TV and see if this is on. I'm sure it'll be on CNN or something live, But yeah, I want to see this. I think people are just, if you don't have a king or queen, like Americans don't have a king or queen, the French don't have a king or queen, people are kind of interested in that. Many Americans are very fascinated by the royal family, even though America had a revolution, coming to leave the UK. I think many Americans are very fascinated by this king and queen. So, yeah. Okay. So any other questions about that? Okay. So let's read this together. Too young to visit the UK for William and Kate's 2011 wedding. Let's say again, 2011 wedding. And still a student during Queen Elizabeth II's. Let's say it again. Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee last year. The coronation is a now or never moment. Let's say it again, a now or never moment. To attend a royal celebration, she said. Okay. She plans to watch on one of the giant screens installed in part of the Capitol and to be in front balcony appearance. Okay. Decker is expecting a festive and family atmosphere and plans to stock up on souvenirs at the historic event. Okay. So, they'll have these big giant screens, imu, around the city in the heart of the capital, means in the middle, the center of the capital, London. And to be in, do you know Buckingham Palaces? It's, how do you say it in Chinese? Yeah, it's kind of probably the most famous royal residence in England, in UK. So why don't we say together, Buckingham Palace. Okay, Buckingham Palace. Yeah. So, and she also plans to see the king and his close family make their balcony appearance. Do you know what they're talking about? So the Buckingham Palace, it's very common for the before the queen, but now the king, to appear on the balcony. What's the balcony? Yeah, Yangtai, with their family, and they wave to everybody, right? And the whole crowd can see them. There's many famous scenes of Queen Elizabeth standing on the balcony with her family, waving to everybody. I've watched some videos, and it's actually quite moving because you see this massive crowd of people, and they're all wearing, waving British flags and, singing God Save the Queen. That's their anthem. Now it's God Save the King. But yeah, so it'll be fun to see that. Why don't we say this word together? Balcony. Balcony. Right. So in Taiwan, many apartment buildings have a balcony, right? Some are big balconies, some are smaller, but it's a place where you can go out and stand out and, look over the. No, a deck is different. A deck can just be an area outside your house or your building where there's usually a wooden platform. It's more like a platform. But a balcony is something. A balcony could also be anywhere where it sticks out and there's a railing on it and you stand on it. But usually a balcony is on the outside of a building. I get occasionally you have a balcony that's inside a building if there's a big space in the middle. But yeah, usually it's on the outside of a building. So veranda, oh boy, that's a word. I know that we use that word sometimes. I guess that word gets used in a similar way of veranda, but balcony is much more common. Veranda? You're saying what? Without a roof. Well, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes balconies are covered, Sometimes you're staying in the balcony and there's still something over you. I mean, in my balcony, there's something above me. But yeah, so it doesn't have to have a roof on it. But yeah. So why don't we say this together? Veranda. Veranda. This word is not as common as, why don't we say it one more time? Balcony. Balcony. Right. Yeah. Okay. So the family will make their balcony appearance. They'll sit there and wave to everybody. Okay. So, and it says here, Decker is expecting a festive. Festive means what? Happy, like a celebration. Sometimes we could say celebratory. A festive and family atmosphere. 环境, and plans to stock up on souvenirs. Now souvenir, right? Okay. 纪念品, right? There's I told you a week ago I went to 九份, right? And there's many souvenirs you can buy there. I bought a little keychain which has a Taiwan Zhenju Nai Cha on it. You know, I thought, oh, this will be a nice gift for somebody. But yeah, so why don't we say this together? Souvenirs. Souvenirs. To stock up on souvenirs. If you stock up on something, it usually means you gather, you buy a bunch, right? Not just one maybe, but maybe a bunch of things. So, you know, you say, you know, I only go, maybe you go to the supermarket only one time a week. So you have to stock up on food, right? You have to buy enough food for your needs. So it's to gather. It's like to get, you know, yes. Mm-hmm. Bulk, to buy in bulk. B-U-L-K, bulk means in large quantities. So to buy in bulk means you buy something. Best example is Costco, right? When you go to Costco, it seems like you buy everything in bulk. It's not like you don't, there's not just one item, there's a box, you know, big box. So that would be a good example of a store where you buy almost everything in bulk. Okay, so the word he uses, bulk, means a large quantity. No, it's, yeah, bulk just means, sometimes we say, like you said, to buy in bulk. It means to buy a large quantity. Now, if you want to make this into a 形容词, bulky means something that's very large. Carry, you know, for example, if you're going to take a trip, you're going to go fly to somebody, and you say, my bag was very bulky. It means it was very large and hard to carry because there's so much there. It's this large item. So that's the word we use too. Why don't we say together, bulk, bulk, bulky, bulky. Right. So yeah, to buy in bulk is something we do sometimes. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and, of course, when we say a historic event, it means an event that makes history, right? It's going to be part of history. It's famous. Okay. She plans to watch on one of the giant screens installed in the heart of the Capitol, and to be in front of Buckingham Palace to see the king and his close family make their balcony appearance. Let's say it again, balcony appearance. Decker is expecting a festive and family atmosphere. Okay, let's say that last part again. Festive and family atmosphere. And plans to stock up on souvenirs at the historic event. Right. Okay. It says London already hosts millions of international tourists each year and could attract extra 250,000 for the nation, the Center for Retail Research said. So that's a lot of people, 250,000 people just for the coronation. So yeah, even though they already get millions of international tourists, okay? Visitors are expected to spend more than 322 million, and what's this stand for? Pounds, right? So pound, you know, pound is normally like bang, right? But yeah, we say pounds, Pounds, pounds. So 322 million pounds on accommodation, food, shopping, and attractions. What does accommodation mean? Hotels, you know, or now people stay at motels, hotels. You know, do you know what Airbnb is? Yeah. You know, when I went to north to Taipei, I said we went to Sanzhi, right? We used Airbnb. We stayed in an Airbnb apartment, which was kind of nice. But yeah, my sister did. I've actually never used Airbnb, Airbnb, but my sister uses it. So it's very interesting too, because they tell you, okay, when you show up, you have to go here and pick up your, there's a code to get in the door, and it's yeah. Anyhow, so why don't we say together, accommodation, accommodation, right? Okay, so yeah, that's a lot of money, 322 million pounds. Okay, so let's read this together. London already hosts of international tourists each year. And could attract extra 250,000 for the coronation. The Center for Research said. Visitors are expected to spend more than 322 million pounds Okay, let's say it one more time. 322 million pounds on accommodation, food, shopping, and attractions. Okay, I want to mention something here. You've noticed, of course, that the spelling for British spelling, okay? So they often spell things with an R-E instead of an E-R. And there's several words, actually a good number of words. So whenever you see a spelling like that, you think, okay, that's British or English spelling. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, if you go to Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or the UK, you'll usually see that spelling. Okay. Canada, I guess, I'm not sure, maybe, yeah. I'm not, actually, that's very, because Canada is so close to the United States, I assume that often they will use some of the American spellings, but yeah, I'm sure they might use this too. Retail, what does retail mean? Yeah, it means like shopping, right? Like selling stuff. So if you say a retailer with an ER, that means a store or someone who sells something. Obviously, you can have online retailers. You can have there's retailers of clothing, of shoes, of anything. So when we say retail, it means to sell. Okay, a seller, someone who sells. So this is a Center for Retail Research. Okay. So yeah. Here it says, Anna Bloomfield, an Australian in her 40s, has already arrived in London ahead of the ceremony. She admires Charles for everything that he's had to endure just being part of the royal family. So, she admires him because he's had to endure. You know what endure means, right? To go through something, right? To endure. Like if you endure means that you have to get through it, right? Like you say, I had to endure a very long trip to America on the airplane. I had to endure this long sickness. Anything you had to go through, get through, right? That's difficult, long, or tough. So he's had to endure a lot of stuff just for being part of the royal family. The royal family has sometimes they have scandals and people criticize them and people are always watching them. She admires that he had to go through all of that. Okay. So she's already in London to get ready for this. Okay. So let's read this. Anna Bloomfield, an Australian in her 40s, has already arrived in London ahead of the ceremony. She admires King Charles just being part of the royal family. Okay, so it says here, Bloomfield has packed a tent for her own endurance test, waiting in all weathers to secure a prime spot to watch the royal couple pass. Okay, so this is kind of funny, right? She has a tent, pang pong, for her own endurance test. Now we said endure, right? To go through. Endurance means, how do you say it in Chinese? It's like to be able to go through. If you have endurance, it means you can endure. You can go through it. And there's many kinds of endurance, right? There's physical endurance, right? Like somebody that runs a marathon, right? If you run a marathon, marathon, you have endurance to finish that race. You have to be able to keep going. But we can have endurance for other things, right? Endurance means like patience, right? If someone's very impatient, they can endure maybe a long speech, or they can wait for a long time. So there's many kinds of endurance. Well, that would be a kind of endurance, or to not eat, for a long time. That would be a kind of endurance. So she has her own endurance test, right? This is going to test her endurance. She's going to wait in all weather, if it's raining or cold or whatever, hot, to secure a prime spot. Secure means what? To make sure, to get a prime spot. Now, what is, spot, of course, means a location, but what's a prime spot? The best place, right, to watch the royal couple pass by. So she wants to have that spot. And so, in Taiwan, maybe, or some places when, Apple comes out with a new iPhone, sometimes people will wait in long lines, maybe early, maybe they'll go at like 1 o'clock in the morning to get a prime spot, the best place to stand in line to wait for something. So people will do this sometimes. So why don't we say together, endurance test. Endurance test. Prime spot. Prime spot. Right, prime means good, the best. Okay, so let's read this. Bloomfield has packed a tent for her own endurance test, waiting in all weathers to secure a prime spot to watch the royal couple pass. Right, okay. So here it says, Catherine, a 54-year-old executive assistant from Toronto, said she cannot wait to experience the pomp and ceremony which the British are famous for. The royal fanatic also wants to show my support for Charles. Okay, so here we have, this woman's from Canada. So executive assistant's kind of like a secretary. Like your assistant to the CEO or the chairman or president. So we say executive. Executive assistant sounds much better than secretary, right? So why don't we say together, executive assistant. Executive assistant. Okay, so she said, I cannot wait. I cannot mean she's really looking forward to this. She cannot wait to experience the pomp and ceremony. Now, this is a very interesting word. Ceremony, I think but what's this word pomp? Yeah, it's related to that, but when we say pomp, it means what? Yeah, it's like extravagant. It's like something that's very fancy, very often this word is associated with things like royal ceremonies. Something that's very extravagant and special and important. Not really. Actually, it's usually a good connotation. Extravagant, but also maybe the word formal. Usually when we talk about pomp, there's a lot of formality, 很正式, right? Okay. And whenever I think of this word, I almost always think of a royal event. with the king or the queen or something like that. We talk about pomp. So it's this sense of extravagant, formal, lavish, importance. So, obviously, if you've ever watched any sort of British royal ceremony, there's a lot of pomp. Say there's a lot of pomp. Okay. So she cannot wait to experience the pomp and ceremony which the British are famous for. Of course, I don't think anyone else comes close to the British when it comes to this. There are other royal families in the world, but they do an amazing job of this pomp and ceremony. Again, when you watch the Queen's funeral, there's a huge amount of pomp and ceremony. Okay, so here it says the royal fanatic. What is a fanatic? Yeah, so the word fan, right? The word fan comes from the word fanatic. So, but the word, you could say I'm a fan of Michael Jackson, or I'm a fan of Chinese food. But that means that something you like. But when you use the word fanatic, it means you're almost crazy about it. Like you really, really, really love something, okay? To the point of being a little bit crazy, okay? So, in a way, the word fan, just the word F-A-N, fan, has a little bit more of a milder side to it. It sounds a little bit, you can say I'm a fan of music, this rock music, and that sounds, but if someone says I'm a fanatic, then that sounds like, okay, this person is really crazy about something. And we use this word as the 形容词 fanatical with an A-L, fanatical. So you can say, I am fanatical about this. If someone says, he is fanatical about being on time, it means that he is always on time. He's never, ever late. He's kind of crazy about that. So a good word that when we think of a fanatic, someone who is a fanatic about anything or for anything, often we say they're almost obsessed. Oops. Yeah. They're obsessed with something. You can say he's obsessed with being on time. He's obsessed with the royal family. He's obsessed. You're just crazy about it. Yeah. Fundamentalist is someone who believes something in the very basic beliefs of something. They're very strong. Often we talk about someone who is a religious fundamentalist. Means they believe the really core belief of that religion. They could be fanatical about it because they hold often it has the sense of being conservative about, having very conservative beliefs about a religion or something else, a fundamentalism. That word often gets used with religion. For some people, that has a negative feeling side to it, but it doesn't have to be negative. Yeah, it just means someone who really holds conservative to a very strong conservative belief. But obsessed with something means you're just focused. That's all you think about. You're fanatical about it. So why don't we say together, fanatic, fanatic, fanatical, fanatical, obsessed with, obsessed with. And of course, if you're obsessed with something, you can say, I have an obsession obsession with, okay, he has an obsession with that, or an obsession for something. So you can have an obsession, okay? So why don't we say together, obsession, obsession. Okay, yeah. So this is obsessed with, like obsess is a 动词, and obsession is a 名词, okay? Yeah, and people often have an obsession with something. There's something they're just really, really crazy about or focused on. That's all they really think about that. People can be obsessed with other people, right? Someone who is kind of like, sometimes we say they're madly in love with somebody, okay? There is a word that we use sometimes if someone, yes, that's exactly what I was thinking about. Or you can have an infatuation. Okay? If you are infatuated with somebody, it means you're really crazy about them. That's all you think about. You know, most people in their lifetime, they may become infatuated with somebody. Even when you're very young or older, you just really, really are crazy about that person. So you can say, he is infatuated with his classmate, or she is infatuated with that boy. Okay, that's all she can think about. Or she's infatuated with that pop star. Okay, and then you can say, I have, or she has an infatuation with somebody. Okay, so it becomes a noun. So why don't we say together, infatuated with. Infatuated with. And of course, this T has a ch sound to a CH sound. Okay, and then let's turn this into a noun. Infatuation. Infatuation. Yeah. Often we say infatuations come and go, like someone might be really infatuated. It's a little bit like the word, I think we've talked about before, to have a crush on someone. You know, you can say she has a crush on that guy. It means she's just really crazy about him. Yeah, that's somebody that you really have a crush on. But infatuated just means you're really crazy about something, someone or something. You could be infatuated with something. Right? It could be, I'm infatuated with Japanese food or Japanese culture. You know, you could use that word in that way too. Okay, so anyhow, let's go back to this and read it together. Catherine, a 54-year-old executive assistant from Toronto, said she cannot wait to experience the pomp and ceremony which the British are famous for. The royal fanatic also wants to show my support for Charles. Okay, now of course, if there weren't these quotation marks, we would say wants us to show her support for Charles, but these were her words. She said, I want to show my support, and they put it in these quotation marks. That's why it's written that way. Okay, he has already shown his desire to modernize, streamline, cut excess, and make the modern day royal family resemble the cultural and religious makeup of Britain today. Okay, so here's some interesting words. This is Prince Charles, or it's not Prince Charles, King Charles, used to be Prince Charles. He has already shown his desire to modernize. You know what modernize means, right? To make more modern. You know, what is that? 现代化 or whatever. Okay, what does streamline mean? Yeah, to make something go faster or smoother, right? So, you know, let's say, for example, you know, when you want to apply for some license with the government, you know, 驾驶执照 or something, and there's this whole process. And then one day the government says, you know, we're going to make this much easier. So we're going to streamline it. We're going to make it simpler. I'll give you an example. 20 years ago in Taiwan, when you wanted to file your taxes, you know, 报税, it actually took a long time. There was a lot of paperwork. Now I think the government has tried to streamline your taxes so that it's much faster and easier you can go online, you know, you can do it digitally. It's much easier and faster to file your taxes. Okay, so we say the government streamlined that process. Okay, so there's many things that we can streamline, right? If there's something we want to make it easier, smoother, faster. Okay, so why don't we say together, streamline. Streamline. Okay, usually a 动词, a verb. So he has shown his desire to modernize, to streamline, cut excess. And what's a simple word for excess? Yeah, or extra. Okay, excess is anything that's extra. So he wants to cut back on things that there's too much of, or it's not necessary. I don't know what he's talking. I don't know if she's talking about money or what. It could be anything. Okay, and to make the modern day royal family resemble the cultural and religious makeup of Britain today. Now, the cultural, 文化 and religious makeup of Britain. What does this makeup word mean? Well, yeah, or the structure of what it is today. For example, what is the makeup of Taiwan's population? Okay, well, I could say, well, most people here are, like we say, Huaren, and a small percentage are Yuan Zhuming, and then there's some people, and that's the makeup of Taiwan's people. It means what are the different parts of it? What is it? What's the, like you said, the structure, or what does it consist of? Does everybody understand that? So, for example, I could even say, what is the makeup of this class? You could say, well, there's some people here that are over 70, and there's some people here between 40. We could talk about the makeup. There's so many men, there's so many women. That's the makeup of this class, right? So he says that he wants to make the royal family, the modern royal family, resemble. And what's resemble mean? Look like, okay? He wants to make the royal family look like the cultural and religious makeup of Britain today. Because, of course, today the makeup of Britain is very different from, 50 years ago, okay? When it comes to the cultural and religious makeup. I would say that if you go back 50 years ago, probably most people in the UK would say, well, maybe I'm a Christian, or, I'm maybe white, but today, you see there's many more races, there's many more different religions, culturally, there's more diversity. Yeah. Constituents. Constituents more like the people that you serve or you represent. So, for example, in Taiwan, there's many liwei, right? In the Li Fa Yuan. And if you talk about a liwei from Taichung, then his constituents are the Taichung people, the people that he represents. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be elected position. For example, the Tsai Ing-wen could talk about, well, I guess she's elected too, but I'm trying to think of another way of saying that. Okay, I guess if you were the company boss, your constituents might be the people inside your company that work for you. But it does have more of a government meaning to it. Not necessarily, because makeup is more of a general word, whereas constituents are more specific people. Okay, or the people that you serve. Okay, so you could say for Mayor Lu of Taichung, her constituents would be the Taichung Shimin, right? Okay, so why don't we say together constituents? Constituents, right? But makeup is just the the people that make up that place. Okay. Now, of course, makeup has a completely different meaning. It's 化妆品, right? Makeup. Women wear makeup. Okay, some women do. Okay, so let's read this together. He has already shown his desire to modernize, streamline, cut excess, and make the modern day royal family resemble the cultural and religious makeup of Britain today, she said. Okay. He is open-minded, defends the environment. He lives in his time, added Decker, who praised the humanity of Charles's charity works. Okay, and you know what charity is, right? 慈善, right? So let's say it again, charity. Charity. Okay, so open mind, of course, I think you know someone has an open mind. Defends the environment. I know Charles is very well known for his environmental his causes. He works hard for the environment. So he defends the environment. He lives in his time. So, when you say someone lives in their time, it doesn't mean, if you say someone, what would be the opposite of living in your time? You might say someone's living in the what? Past. Yeah. So if you say, oh, he's living in the past, it means that he's not living for today. He's living like it was before. Maybe his ideas are outdated or old-fashioned, right? So you say, oh, you need to change. You're living in the past. Times have changed, or Taiwan has changed, or America has changed. Don't live in the past. Now, of course, you can even say someone's living in the future, but normally we'd say living in the present, living in the past, or here we could say lives in his time. Often we say living in the present, Present. Okay, so he lives in his time. Added Decker, who praised the humanity. Of course, humanity. How do you say humanity in Chinese? Yeah, if someone has humanity, it means they are human-hearted, right? They care for humans. It's a good thing, right? People should have humanity. They should show a human heart, the humanity. And from that word, we get many other words like humanitarian, right? If we say someone has a great humanitarian. You've heard this word before, right? Humanitarian can be a 形容词, or it can be a 名词, a humanitarian person, or he is a great humanitarian. Okay, someone who practices humanity, who shows humanity. Usually someone who helps people, who's done something to help many people. So we say humanitarian efforts. Like, for example, if there's a great, disaster, and we send lots of food and money to help them, we say that's a humanitarian effort to help somebody. Okay. Does everybody understand that? Humane also means kind, helpful. So if someone is a very humane person, it means they're very kind or helpful to others. And that word is pronounced M-A. So H-U-M. It's like the word human, but you add a 加一个 E at the end. So it's humane. Like, for example, in America, there's a very famous group called the Humane Society. But that's for helping animals, right? So the Humane Society is famous for helping, they fight to protect and treat animals kindly. So, it's very funny. If you ever watch any movies from Hollywood, like you watch a Hollywood movie, at the very end of the movie, there's almost at the very, very end, when they show all the names of people, they'll usually say no animals were harmed in the making of this movie. And there's usually from the Humane Society. It's from this association. They check and make sure that no animals were hurt or harmed during this filming of this movie. I'm sure they have to send people and look and make sure, check different things. So why don't we say these words together? Humanity. Humanity. Okay. Humanitarian. Humanitarian. And then this word, humane. Humane. Right. Humane is a 形容词, to act in a humane way, or the Humane Society. Okay. So let's read this together then. He is open-minded, defends the environment. He lives in his time. Added Decker, who praised the humanity of Charles's charity works. Charity works. Okay. So as your nation praise European travelers' internet service flights to London over the coronation weekend are 65% higher than the same weekend last year, and 105% for hotels. Data from U.S. search engine Kayak showed. Okay, So coronation craze. So here's that word, it's kind of similar to the idea of you're crazy about something, you're obsessed by something, you're fanatical about something. A coronation craze, it's a 名词, but you can say right now there's a craze for what? Oh, iPhones, yeah. Or there's a craze for,珍珠奶茶or whatever. It could be something that people are crazy about. So why don't we say together, craze? Craze. Okay, so coronation craze. People are crazy about the coronation. European travelers, okay, so they're searching for flights to London, and there's the 105% more than normal for hotels, okay. I'll just add here, this word kayak, of course, this is a website, a search engine, but the word kayak, you know what a kayak is? Yeah, it's a boat that you sit in, and the water can't come in. It's not a canoe. A canoe is CANOE, where you paddle. The kayak is usually for one or two people. And how do you say it in Chinese? You know what I'm talking about, though, right? You have to go in. Well, it's not a canoe. It's different from a canoe. A kayak can be made of many things. I've seen plastic kayaks. I've seen. Here's one clue. A canoe, the paddle usually only has one paddle, and so you paddle and then you do this, right? But a kayak, the paddle has two sides. There's one paddle here and one, and so you paddle like this, okay, like that. I've done this before in Hawaii. We went sea kayaking. We went out into the ocean, and you have to paddle on both sides. The canoe, it's just on one side. Okay, so I think I know where this came from. Like in Mexico, we say Mexico Indian, right? They had canoes, but if you go up north to like Canada and the Arctic, way up north where it's very cold, they usually had kayaks. Okay, so anyhow, kayaks are interesting too, because if you're going down the river and they flip over, usually you can just come right back up again. They'll turn all the way over. Whereas a canoe, if it tips over, you have to get out of the water. Anyhow, the pronunciation of this word is kayak. Okay, so it's an I sound. Kayak. Kayak. Okay, just so you know. Yeah, it's Inuit. Yeah. So actually, I'll just show you this word. He just gave a word that's very interesting. Now, long time ago, not long time ago, maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we had another word that was much more common, but that word is not considered politically. Yeah. So Americans and everyone else used to always say Eskimo. Okay. And Eskimos, it's a very common word. Eskimos, these people who live way up north, and they're like Mexico Indian, but they live up north. But I remember when I went to Canada about 20 years ago, and I said Eskimo. My Canadian friend said, "No, you don't say Eskimo. We say Inuit." Okay, so Inuit is it's just like in America today. Many people still say American Indian, but now many people often believe it's better to say Native American. Okay, so but people do still say, even American Indians themselves, they still say Indian. They still use the word Indian, Indian reservation, Indian. But this is considered more the politically correct word to use. Yeah. I think Eskimo is a word. I think it has it doesn't have a very positive meaning. But I think, to be honest, I think what happened was white people started using this word to describe everyone. They just used it as a general word. And this word really did not come from them. This is their word for their own people. And that's a word that they prefer. And Eskimo, it doesn't have a very good sound to them. So anyhow, let's say these get. But if you see this word around, I mean, it's a very there's a kind of 冰淇淋 called Eskimo pies. Yeah, it's a very common snack. And anyhow, let's say it together. Eskimo. Eskimo. Inuit. Inuit. Native American. Native American. Right, so the kayak is associated with the Inuit people, whereas Native Americans, we talk about canoes. A canoe is that. Yeah. They are connected. It's just Inuits live way up north, right? So they are kind of, there's a connection there. Yeah, they have that kind of features. Some people, I mean, according to what I understand, anthropologists say that maybe thousands of years ago they came across from Asia, you know, across the ice from Asia to Alaska and northern Canada, and then they kind of made their way all the way down. Yeah, so they do look a little Asian, yes. Yeah. Okay, so let's read this together. Demonstrating the coronation craze. Let's say it again. Coronation craze. European travelers' internet searches for over the coronation weekend are 65% higher than for the same weekend last year, and 105% for hotels. Data from U.S. search engine Kayak showed. Okay. Okay, let's just read here one more because I think this is it includes some words we just talked about. The French seem to be the most interested, with Americans making up the bulk of visitors from outside of Europe. So this is what Kayak said. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, right? The French, of all people, are the most interested in the. You know, sometimes you think the French, why would they care, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm actually a little surprised by this. I could see maybe the Canadians or the Australians and Americans, but it says here the French seem to be the most interested in this coronation, with Americans making up the bulk of visitors. Now, here's that word again that he just mentioned, bulk. What does that mean when we say making up the bulk of visitors? Actually, it means to make up the most visitors. So if you say the bulk of our of Taiwan's tourists come from Japan, or the bulk of, you know, it means most of, the majority. Maybe another word would be say the majority of. So when we say the bulk of something, earlier he said we use the word bulk, you know, to buy something in bulk, means to buy it in a large quantity. But here when we say the bulk of something is this, it means the majority of, the most of, okay? So the bulk, Americans make up bulk of visitors from outside of Europe. So from inside of Europe, the French have the most interest, but outside of Europe, Americans are the majority coming from other countries outside of Europe. Everybody understand that? Okay. There's another good word for that, use of that word bulk. Okay, so let's read this together. The French seem to be the most interested, with Americans making up the bulk of visitors from outside of Europe, the company said. Yeah. So anyhow, hopefully if you're interested, if you're a royal fanatic, you can watch this on the news. I think probably maybe Saturday. Okay. So yeah, I'll have to remember to turn on CNN or watch and see what's going on. Yeah, anyhow, hope you all have a good week. I see the weather's gotten very hot. So yeah, enjoy it, stay cool, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.